We killed our planet. This is kind of a new hashtag of 2022 because we don't have abundance now. We are in the threat radar of nature. I want to quote Stephen Hawking here, who explained today's reality so perfectly. I quote, "One can see from space how the human race has changed the earth. Nearly all of the available land has been cleared of forest and is now used for agriculture or urban development. The polar ice caps are shrinking and the desert areas are increasing. At night, the earth is no longer dark, but large areas are lit up. All of this evidence that human exploitation of the planet is reaching a critical limit. But human demands and expectations are ever increasing. We cannot continue to pollute the atmosphere, poison the ocean, and exhaust the land. There isn't any more available." These are very powerful words. You know, the interesting thing is climate change is not a new concept, but it is still a hot potato. We all know that we are stuck in a crisis. Now, one question comes to my mind. Can we save the earth? Or let me just put it this way. Can we save the earth using big data? In this talk, I will share the potential of big data in today's time. And I'll use two lenses, organization and the country level, to explain how big data can contribute to achieve climate change targets and ambitions. But before we get there, let me just tell you an alarming fact. UNEP study shows that there is not enough data to assess the progress of 68% of environment related sustainable development goal indicators. Now that is something is very surprising in the digital wonderland in this age of hashtags and swiping left and right, isn't it? So here I have an interesting question for you all. Are we data deficit? And if yes, is it hindering the world's ability to respond to the climate crisis? Well, a lack of data can severely limit a country's ability to fight against the climate change. But I think we are monitoring what is happening to the climate, but there's still a long way to go. So what is important? We need to understand what data is required to build a sustainable future. And SAR, I'm not talking about coronavirus here, but SAR here means secure, accurate, and real-time data. Now that's where big data picture comes into this. Because gathering and analyzing millions of data points can be very challenging. Now, big data can tell us where to focus. Everything around us today is impacted by big data. This phenomena started a decade ago, and there are so many examples in which big data shares that how it is handling and responding to in solving the real world problems. It can be used to predict weather, guess future stock prices, influence consumer behaviors to have sustainable practices and lifestyles and production and consumer patterns, protect the environment. It can help in conserving natural resources, etc. So now this is something interesting. Let me just tell you two examples that how big data is contributing in climate change. First, water aqueduct. Now, it is a tool of water risk mapping, designed and developed by Water Resource Institute. It monitors and calculates water risk for the entire world using big data, water quality, water quantity, and other regulatory parameters. Second, Pulse Lab Jakarta. Now, Pulse Lab Jakarta is a joint initiative of United Nations and Government of Indonesia. And they have various initiatives of big data related to SDGs and sustainability. Now, one such initiative is the Vampire Project, which is vulnerability analysis monitoring platform for impact of regional events. Now, what they're doing in this, they are capturing and analyzing satellite imagery and create maps that incorporates anomalies related to climate and rainfall. So with these examples and initiatives and efforts tells us how powerful the big data is. Let me just explain it more as an applicability of big data in the fight of climate change. Let's talk about the country level first. So I envisage a country where people from all across the society enjoy their human rights, such as access to food and electricity, safe drinking water, sanitation, quality education, effective healthcare, good transportation, and so on. Now, to realize all of this, big data is largely useful. Let me explain how. To collect public health data, especially the large public health data from hospitals, can be really challenging, but it could be largely and hugely helpful and a big resource for any country. We have seen this during pandemic, and one such example is Arogya Setu app, the contract tracing app, which helped to predict the spread of infectious disease by mapping the movement of mobile phones. Now, I'm not talking here about the effectiveness of the app, but just look at the scale and the power of this big data to bring the change and to improve the healthcare system of any country. Let's talk about clean water, where sensors can be connected to the water pumps to track the access of clean water at the end, at the citizen level, in real time. How beautiful. If we talk about climate action, combining satellite imagery with the open data, we can track the deforestation. So these are few examples, which can really help and tell us that how big data can solve real world problems and help the entire world in this journey. Let's look at the organization level now. Companies are very increasingly leveraging big data and analytic solutions to look at different parameters of their KPIs and targets and scalability of their business operations. So they use big data in different forms. Say, for example, marketing teams use it to learn the consumer base. There's a whole lot of fight against fossil fuels, the drive of elimination of fossil fuels, right? Which is a very big agenda. There's a grand agenda of it because it emits a large amount of GHG emissions and which is not good for the environment. So corporates are in the drive to eliminate this fossil fuel. Now, in that drive, they switch from fossil fuels to biomass. Now, this biomass which they are using, the quality and the availability of this biomass is always questioned. Nobody knows if it is good, reliable, not reliable. So big data can be really useful both for the biomass producers and the consumers. Biomass producers can use the data, this big data and open data, to locate the refineries. And the consumers, biomass consumers, can use it to source the reliable and good quality biomass with cost-effective prices. Another example is smart metering, which is an excellent tool for real-time monitoring. And artificial intelligence can help us simulate that information, which can impact the business decisions largely. Also, in the supply chain, big data, both historic and real time, can also impact hugely because it can tell us where the emissions and the harmful emissions lies in the entire supply chain and what are the gaps and the opportunities, which is a big pain area for any business and corporation. So these are few ways through which big data is helping existingly also, but there is a long way to go to really tap this potential of using big data largely for this entire fight. I want to end here by highlighting that climate change is a complex issue and big data is facilitating us in solving this. I believe open data and the big data can largely help us in scaling the climate solutions with urgency. So let's fix up the earth and build back better by using big data.